And welcome back to episode 128 of the Weekly Tech Rant with me, Jay.
And me, Carl.
I think you've either fell off your chair or the mic burst into life there. I'm not sure which one it was.
Coming through loud and clear.
Yes, you are indeed. And we are back for our weekly roundup of all the latest tech news, stories, and other things. Before we kick off, I had a little bit of kind of geek out earlier today. So, for those of a certain age, the name Loft, Cult of the Dead Cow, and other renowned hacking groups and hackers is probably something, if you grew up in the 90s, came of age in the 90s and then got into computing, or perhaps obviously older, I should say as well. These groups were they were, weren't they? They were the forerunners of today's hacking collectives. The Loft particularly with the famous congressional testimony back in 1998. These guys for me were like mythical heroes. When I was getting into computing. Yeah, but like those late 90s when I was kind of teenager, and in the early 2000s in my first computer. The stuff they got up to, looking at things like Loft Crack and other reading about them, they were mythical people. And I never thought I'd ever get to meet them. But when I joined IBM a couple of years later, Space Rogue, who part of Loft, he joined X-Force IBM. I remember randomly, I think not meeting as in like meeting face to face, but he was at one of the events, and I think I kind of was like, "Oh my god, who it was." Anyway, he's just recently brought a book out, written by himself about the year, the Loft years, if you will, and it's called Space Rogue: How the Hackers Known as Loft Changed the World, and it's his story of those 25 odd years when of getting into computers, getting into sort of hardware hacking, joining Loft, and leading up to where he is today. Anyway, long story short is that I read the book. It's fantastic. I recommend you getting it if you're into that, and you can get it, I think, as an ebook in all other places. So from that point, but anyway, so I tweeted this morning. I was like, look, I wanted to say thanks because it was a great book. So I tweeted him and said, look, what great book this was, and just kind of amazing. Anyway, what I didn't expect was for not only him to retweet it, but Loft retweeted it. And I then got likes from several other people, but also Weld Pond as well, who was one of the ones. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh my god!
There was a bit of that. There was a bit earlier, but so yeah, I'll be honest with you, I geeked out a little bit earlier about that. But yeah, it was just they should one of those things that I guess even at our ages we still can have those moments. But yes.
Yep.
Right then, let's talk about today's world then. And we've been talking a bit about the last few weeks about AI having made machine learning, particularly AI more than machine learning. And ChatGPT, Bard we talked about, and Bing. I've been a good Bing. Well, it turns out then now you too can get your own good Bing for a mere close to 40 grand a month, isn't it, from NVIDIA?
Yeah. So if you fancy building your own OpenAI, Bing, any large language model kind of stuff, NVIDIA will show you what they call DGX Cloud. So starts at $37,000 a month.
Okay.
But I think that gets you one of their DGX server boxes with 8 of their A100 CPUs. You can get the H100, so even bigger, but obviously more money. You get 640 gig of RAM. Buying one of these boxes would cost you over 200k though. So 37k a month first. I'm not sure that's good value for money when you could just buy the boxes. But you can scale this up to what? I think they said 32,000 GPUs.
Yeah.
Wowza. And you'll be able to... that's a huge amount, isn't it?
Huge. I mean, the power here is unbelievable. I mean, like you say, what was it? You get for that point, was it, as you say, those 8 plus 64? But yeah, 32,000 GPUs plus the additional storage software and direct access to NVIDIA's expert group, isn't it? I'm just like...
They'll help optimize your code. They won't do it for you, but they'll optimize whatever you've put together.
I mean, I guess, there are going to be organizations out there who are thinking, yeah, exactly. You know what? We could be burning a lot of money in trying to build our own, and roll it. But actually, this is obviously not off the shelf in terms of ready to rock, but it's off the shelf in the terms of it's ready to go in you just need to train it, don't you, and configure it.
Yeah, and put your code on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, so so this is kind of very related, though, isn't it? As you say to what Microsoft are doing with Bing. Um,
It is.
so is this exactly the same
I think this is
kind
what's
of hardware setup?
underlying. Yeah, because you'll be able to get this from obviously Nvidia aren't putting it in their own cloud because they don't have one. This will be running on Azure or GCP a bit later in the year. I think Oracle Cloud, strangely enough, will be the first people out where you can rent this. But yeah, it's already in their DCs. I'm pretty sure this is what OpenAI Bing Chat is running on. But yeah, you'll be able to buy a slice of that now.
Wow. I mean, look, you know me, I love ChatGPT. I think there was I sent you the cartoon, didn't I, the other day? That was God.
That was you.
Yeah, it was fun, but I mean, it does. I mean, every time. Oh, sorry, the video, not cartoon. Sorry, it was a video on LinkedIn about this guy.
Was a video, yeah.
And it is true. It is kind of like, oh my god, I've got to tell you about this, and it does get a bit. I appreciate it probably gets a little tedious, uh, but
Your
I think
wife must love this.
I just don't talk about it. It is outside of you and everybody else. It is quite fun. There's so much it can do, and I keep trying to ask it things and like test it, and it keeps giving me good,
Yeah.
give me good answers. I mean, obviously you got to take some with a pinch of salt, but generally speaking, unless
Yeah.
you really try to give it complex tasks, it's quite hard.
Yep.
Now, obviously, one of the things we were trying to get to last week was build an app, wasn't it, and come up with it, and it was pretty good. I
Yep.
think if I had more coding skills, I could generate something. I suppose
You
so
mean
if I had,
any coding skills?
yes, yes, yes. I think. I mean, I do think if I had the best part of 36 grand a month available to spend, maybe I could run my own. Train it how I wanted to
Maybe.
train it. But yeah, but just I know we haven't. One of the stories that came out this week, though, wasn't it? Was that Google might be in hot water, aren't they, about their Lambda chat engine Bard,
Ugh.
over rumors that they may have um, given it some data from ChatGPT, isn't it?
Yeah. Didn't someone walk out of the job saying, I can't do this, which is basically stealing Microsoft stuff here?
Yeah, because there's a website, isn't there, where people post conversations that they've had with
Yep.
ChatGPT, and it is alleged, not proven, but alleged
Yep.
that Google, particularly the Bard team, had been getting Bard or Lambda to ingest that data to understand what prompts and responses it could be given to
Yep.
generate it. Yeah, so I mean, again, not proven, just an allegation, but yeah, definitely an interesting way
Interesting
of
to see
looking
where
at
that
it.
one goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm possible. Though there was one thing, and again, I saw this in the Times newspaper today. So the UK Times, they had a story today about the headline was AI chatbot blamed for Belgian man's suicide.
Right. Okay.
So apparently, to kind of summarize it, a young man in Belgium has taken his own life after developing a relationship with an AI chatbot called now where was it? I had the notes here. Eliza. Now there
Right.
was, I don't know if you remember, many years ago there was an Eliza bot created to try and pass the Turing test, old fashioned,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But apparently this one is a chatbot developed by a company called, wait for this, Chai GPT. So chai,
Right.
as in the drink, an
Yeah.
alternative to chat based by a company called Chai Research, and the gentleman's wife said that he'd become very withdrawn, he was having problems, um, and this Eliza chatbot, was there as a confidant,
Mm.
asked lots of questions, and apparently he asked the chatbot who he loved more, his wife or the chatbot, and the chatbot replied, I quote, "I feel you love me more than her. We will live together as one person in paradise." And in the final conversation, apparently, it is alleged, it told him, "If you want to die, why didn't you do it sooner?"
Oh. Oh.
Absolutely, absolutely terrifying. Um,
Clearly, there are some other issues beyond just the conversation with this Chai
yeah,
GPT
yes, of course, but
beforehand, obviously. But wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is quite. I guess around. So apparently, the EU is drawing up what they're calling Artificial Intelligence Act now,
Right.
to kind of provide regulation. I mean,
Free
let's be
laws of
honest.
robotics.
Well, possibly. We have seen this week, haven't we? The letter signed by several tech luminaries who want to, including Musk, which I thought was kind of ironic,
Of course. Of
to,
course.
to say that they wanted to regulate the training of these LLMs, didn't they? Um,
Hmm.
but it was quite interesting though. There was so. a guy called Gary Marcus, who is a professor at the New York University. New York University.
Yeah.
Apparently, told the Big Technology podcast last month that he said something else that he's got to be worried about is that are people going to kill themselves because they have a bad relationship with a bot or AI? We're not ready for any of these things. And in Wired magazine, apparently last year, he wrote in 2023, we may see our first death by chatbot. That's quite a
Right.
prediction.
Yeah.
But like you say, we don't know the full statements of this gentleman's life.
No.
It's not right for us to speculate, entirely here, but it is concerning, I think, that, that the responses by the chatbot may probably have exacerbated things. Maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know, but that's it. But this Chai GPT, they are an open source. It's an open source model.
Right.
It's run by a non-profit called Elutha AI, and they said themselves that they believe that the technology is dangerous, but they reckon by allowing everybody to use it, it gets better research. Now, we know that OpenAI will not release any of the source code um, for or any of the information how they're training
Yeah.
ChatGPT for the opposite reason, because they believe the safety concerns there, but also competition. So yeah, kind of concerning, isn't it? This is weird. Chai Research, by the way, have said that they've rolled out some security features now that
Right.
protect users. Now they haven't stated what they were, but they have rolled them out to that. They've got over 1 million monthly active users. Unbelievable.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, but yeah, I just saw it this morning, and as I was doing my notes, I was like, this kind of timely comment.
Could be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. ChatGPT is great fun, and you could easily lose yourself,
Yeah.
within inside that around questions, answers, and I think if you weren't grounded, perhaps it could
Yeah.
also be very easy to start to rely on it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, on that point, then 36 grand or 37 grand a month, excuse me, will get you access to your own version of it. So yeah, we'll be crowdfunding for that soon.
Yeah. It's going to be running the podcast for us.
Yeah. Well, well, you never know. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on. So, talking of money, then,
Yep.
Coinbase are in hot water again. Then,
They are indeed, aren't they? So they're that popular cryptocurrency exchange. Well, they've just received a Wells notice from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC. Basically, that Wells notice is kind of a formal notification the SEC staff intends to recommend enforcement action against the company for possible violations of security laws related to their crypto trading assets and stuff. Now, I think Coinbase put their hands up, haven't they? I said, yep, they plan to cooperate with the SEC and they'll provide a comprehensive response to the Wells notice. But basically, it's basically under investigation for allowing trading of unregistered securities on the platform, and it failed to
yeah.
register as a national securities exchange as well. Sounds like they're in deep water. I don't think this is the first time you were saying, was it, Jay?
No, so
No.
Coinbase have been fined before. In fact, this
Yeah.
year, so
Yeah.
they were fined $50 million that they had violated anti-money laundering laws
Right.
as part of that was with New York regulators. So that was purely with
Okay.
the
Yeah.
New York State, and that was over fraud, money laundering, particular information. But they also got fined, and this is more pertinent. They got fined $3.6 million
Yeah.
by the Dutch National Bank because they didn't register in the Netherlands before offering crypto services.
Naughty, naughty.
But Coinbase said it disagreed with the DNB's decision because it included no criticism or actual services, and they were going to appeal.
Huh.
But that sounds very similar to what's happened here with the SEC,
It does indeed.
in that you're operating without registration. Now, Coinbase, as you say, are with this Wells notice, and a Wells notice refers to the SEC committee that was chaired by John Wells back in 1972. So I guess it's just the kind of
Yeah.
the phrasing around that, not particularly. I thought perhaps it was something like Wells Fargo or something. I don't ask me why, but it went
No.
down that road. Coinbase themselves are kind of arguing, like, saying that there's no rules, there is no rule book. So how can they be fined or investigated, wasn't it, when
Yeah.
there are no stated rules? which is
I
odd.
mean, if that's true, that they may have a point there, but that's never stopped a government agency doing what they want before.
No, of course not. Isn't it usually we regulate, we kind of slap you, then regulate, and then decide to write the rule book?
Write the rules afterwards, yeah, just before we get to court.
Yeah, so there was some tweets, wasn't there, from Paul, is it Gruel? Gruel, I think, isn't it, who is the chief legal officer.
Yeah,
And he posted the PDF, didn't he, of the letter from the SEC online.
Mm.
But like you say, he did say that they were, going to cooperate, but also go to court with them to understand
yeah,
how to work it. Because I think their view was that is if we go to court, then we can get some legislation and set a precedence on how this works.
yeah,
But yeah, I think Coinbase. Yeah, given everything's happened with Binance, given everything that's happened with FTX, I think to be a crypto exchange,
yeah.
um, I don't know.
Mm.
It just seems a
Dicey
very.
times.
It does, because I did see the other day that there was a news point apparently saying about Coinbase are in Canada, but apparently Binance are going to exit Canada because there's going to be a regulatory shake-up there. This is coming
Oh,
down the line. Every country is trying to regulate heavily, isn't it, on that?
yeah, it is. Yeah,
You
definitely.
know, apparently the reason Canada's doing it is, do you remember that Quadriga CX? We talked about that before. Do you remember the guy who went,
Oh, yeah.
who presumed dead, wasn't he? And nobody's quite sure whether he did die or not.
Mm. Yeah.
All which turned out to be a Ponzi scheme as well. So there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of concerns that any other crypto exchange could be there, but apparently
Coinbase.
Coinbase, excuse me, is also working very closely with the Canadian Security Administration. So who knows? Maybe they are completely clean. Maybe this is just a mistake. I don't know. The SEC
We'll
is
see.
just barking up the wrong tree. I don't know.
It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in court.
Yeah, I think the problem with the SEC is that given everything else of their history, it does make you wonder whether or not they are chasing the right rabbit, if you will. I don't know.
Mm.
Don't know.
Definitely see on that one.
Definitely. What we got next then?
Linus Tech Tips. I think
Oh,
we
yes.
spoke about this briefly when we were in Vegas, didn't we? And it just kind of happened that morning. We were going to come back to you when we heard some more information. Well, Linus himself has put out a video, hasn't he? And it kind of covered in the media about what actually happened. So, yeah, I think some hackers managed to get in, and we'll discuss in a minute how they got in. But they took out the main Linus Tech Tips channel, along with two other channels, deleted all the videos, changed the names to something to do with Tesla, wasn't it? I
Yeah.
started pumping out those crypto scam videos where Elon Musk is talking with a panel about it, and follow this link to an Elon Musk looking website and buy your crypto. It was something if you put like some Bitcoin in, it'd be returned doubled within X number of days, wasn't it? It was some scam like that.
Yeah, that's it. The one, as you say, the videos themselves weren't scammed. It was the
Well, that was
links.
a real video. It was the link underneath, wasn't it, to a scam website?
You're right. As you say, it was that classic, you send us one Bitcoin, we'll send you two back or
Two back, yeah.
whatever. Yeah. Which I've seen those before on Twitter and other things like that. Again, using Elon Musk again as that kind of front for it.
Elon Musk and Tesla, yeah. So, but apparently, Linus was saying that they've done an investigation, they had passwords, they had two-factor protection on all their accounts. But what seems to have happened though is one of the media group's team downloaded what appeared to be a sponsorship offer from a potential partner. They launched the offer came in a PDF format. They launched it, and that basically installed malware on the machine, and actually, basically copied all the bits from the browser. The most important, it included the session token to YouTube. So by grabbing that session token, putting it on a new machine, you basically bypass all the passwords and 2FA because it thinks you're still logged in with a session token. And this gave them full access to the channels.
I mean, it's mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you think about it, and with the video that Linus put out, as you say, shows him running down it must be from his internal security cameras, isn't it? I think from
It
what you
is, yeah,
saw.
it's in his house, yeah, at like
He's
3 in the morning or whatever it
3
is.
in the morning. He's been woken up. from somebody. He's running downstairs to his office. Clearly jumped out of bed. He's not wearing a stitch because of the blurring. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
And then then he says in his own words, he plays whack-a-mole, doesn't he? Trying to log them in and out
Yeah,
of every
trying to figure
session.
out how they've got access, changing passcodes because that's not doing anything. You've still got a session token.
Exactly, and this is absolutely it. So it's absolutely nuts. It just, despite having every bit of security that you're encouraged to have, the 2FA, the
Yeah,
multi-factor, all of the different things, it doesn't. It just proves that there is. If somebody's going to do it, they're gonna get around it, isn't it? Really?
it was. And while he said, look, YouTube were responsive, and that's probably only because he's a large,
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of
media
prestige with
group
it.
there. If you'd been me or you, we would have got nothing out of them, but they've got a dedicated account manager. And while they were responsive and restored all the videos and figured out what happened, he was going on to say, look, there needs to be some improvements. Apparently, you can change the channel name without having to enter a password or re-authenticate two-factor FA. You can delete all the videos again with no prompt to re-authenticate. Are you sure? It just gone at a click of a button. And there's not even any reauthorization if you're logging in from a new location.
No, this was a bit that puzzled me. I mean, I think his point was, for smaller accounts like you or mine, yeah, you can understand why that's not there. It's not, but for these larger mainstream, almost media style, well,
Yeah,
they are media.
they
You're right.
are. Yeah,
There's no, as you say, there's no additional verification to make any of these what effectively are massive changes to do it. And I think, I sometimes get, personally speaking, I find him kind of irritating sometimes. It's Linus, but when I watched the video, I actually did feel for him.
yeah.
I felt for him because ultimately, at the end of the day, this is his business. He employs lots of people. This is his livelihood at stake. And
And the
actually,
people that work for them, their livelihoods and their
yeah,
jobs.
yeah,
Without the
exactly.
money, they don't pay the bills. They don't get paid.
No, and for all of my personal thoughts around, as in how about his video, but genuinely from a point of view of this is somebody running a business and somebody else is in it, this could happen to any other, and that's what he's saying, it could happen to any other things. And in the video, didn't they, I think if I recall, they found, I think they say 10 seconds to find another channel exactly with
Yeah,
similar
all over. It's a
streams.
rampant problem on YouTube.
It is concerning, isn't it, to be honest
Yeah.
with you, of this.
Once you're
um
in, there's no prompt for any re-authentication for pretty much anything, which
no
does seem kind of crazy when you're making major changes.
No, and YouTube themselves haven't really given anything beyond saying that, as you say, they were
They've dealt
alerted,
with
they
it.
investigated, and yeah, problem solved. Thanks very much. Come again.
No, the
Um,
problem isn't solved. The problem is still there. You solved this incident for
well,
now.
yes, yeah, for now. And I think the Verge asked
Yeah.
in the statement, didn't they, if they were going to do anything? There was no
We
reply
didn't even get a
for it.
reply. No, no.
No. I just, this is it. But take a step back here to the attack vector here.
Yeah.
You know, we are constantly taught, and we see this in our industry because
Yeah.
we work in the security industry. Do not click if somebody sends you an attachment and you don't know who it's from. Don't open it. Don't look at it. Don't respond to it.
No.
Delete it. Which is great, but actually, this is human. This is everything we talk about. You can have
Yeah.
the most sophisticated security in the world, but ultimately a human is involved in that transaction, things will go wrong. And I think that's the problem here, is that nobody's at fault here, and
Yeah.
he doesn't point the finger, he doesn't say they're to blame.
No. It's one of those things.
It's just one of those things where somebody was saying it, and especially he's got he runs a media group, as we know, so people are going to send him things, sponsorship information, things will come in, and somebody doing their job perhaps didn't do enough diligence. I don't know.
And we don't know if it's one of those ones that's, invoice.pdf.exe or whether it's actually a flaw within Adobe and the PDF was the vector to take system access. It doesn't go into that much detail.
No, it just says that it was a PDF that had sponsorship information in it,
Yeah.
but then that was actually had a payload in there that then he did the session hijacking and copied. But I'm sure he's got right contacts. I'm sure there'll be a security team involved here or something. He's working with that can analyze that. But ultimately, that that error, as you know, that issue is exactly the problem. You know, that hasn't anything to do. Nobody has gone in and done 2FA. Nobody else has come along and you know, I don't know, social engineered this guy, have
No,
they, to create, you know, none of that has happened. You know, that's the thing, and that's your point, isn't it? That this this takeover, or this should we say, this attack vector to do takeover, is where the problem lies.
yeah,
And you know what, I protecting against this is probably is one of the hardest things to be done, isn't it? Really, it's just
it
education,
is,
isn't
and
it?
it's
Ultimately,
education. But then you need the platform to be kind of not that YouTube was insecure itself. It wasn't a vulnerability in YouTube, but it was a lack of sensible security options implemented at YouTube. Because it just took one thing. Changing if they'd changed the name and it said please re-authenticate, and of course they couldn't do that, and it just logs out all sessions. The hack would never have happened.
no. It does make you wonder, doesn't it? And I think, my suggestion would be to anybody, just be careful, isn't it?
Yep.
Uh, be careful of what you click on. Be
Yep.
careful of what you're there. And again, we all make mistakes. Nobody's suggesting, we're all going to get it right every single time. But if it can happen to Linus, um, if it can, happen to somebody like them who talks about security, they talk about, all
Yeah.
the kind of stuff, isn't it? It can happen to you and me or any of us. So I think it's definitely, there's a lesson here to be had, and
Yeah.
he's done a good job in talking about that, I think, as well, isn't it? In the
Definitely.
video.
Yeah. I mean, he was open about it. Quite a lot of people wouldn't have been. So give him credit for that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, it was shocking, I think, to see it happen, and kind of see those videos. It was quite concerning, wasn't it? Because you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god,
Yeah.
uh, you know. But on the other hand, you could argue, what security measures could be put in now? Do they allow email? Is there going to be additional things here for them to open? But this is the weird stuff, isn't it? It's like, how do you
Yeah.
protect it? Because you could go over the top and like, right, well, no, we're no longer going to open our attachments. Well, then how are you going to get,
We're banning
how?
email. We're only going by
Well, no,
snail mail.
and this is the thing, isn't it? This is it.
Yep.
Absolutely thing. But do you know what I find really interesting though is reading some of the comments, and it was particularly on the Verge page about this. Reading some of the comments is I mean, I'm not suggesting there aren't experts in that chat, but
There
everybody's got an opinion.
was a lot of armchair experts. Yeah.
There's a lot of armchair experts in there,
Yeah. I didn't
uh,
read the comments, so I don't know, but I could
just
only imagine. Yeah.
yeah, it's brilliant. There's everybody's got an opinion,
Yeah. Of course.
and
Well,
the
that's what
truth
the
is,
internet's about.
it is, isn't it? Everybody's got an opinion. Of course, everybody knows better, but ultimately, the bottom line is phishing. This was a phishing attack, and it
Yeah.
worked, and it
And it
worked.
does an awful lot.
It does, and you know what? As we often talk about in our line of work, phishing is still the number one attack vector, isn't it?
Massively. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Linus is back online now. You can see it if we'll have the video in the show notes. And it's quite interesting. He states it, doesn't he? That if you're watching this, then we're back online. Yes, you are back online.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Right.
But yeah, well,
Next one.
keeping the theme of Linus then.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is actually a company he's invested in. He did have a video about it, and he's very open that he's invested money in this company. The company is Framework, and I think we've spoken to them before, even before Linus invested in them. And they make what they describe as upgradable, repairable laptops, don't they? They build a laptop, a chassis. When they, bring out a 12th or 13th gen Intel, they provide you with a brand new motherboard and CPU if you want to, and it's a drop-in replacement. It's a 5-minute job to take the old one out, pop the new one in. They've even given you 3D printed files to print a case to put the old one in, so you can use it as a desktop.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's all about sustainability and being able to replace the parts and upgrade it when you want to. So they held what do you call it, a media event the other day, didn't they, to announce some new products? They
they
announced
did.
they only have one laptop, the 13-inch one, I should say. So they announced a 13th gen Intel upgrade for that. And finally, an AMD option based on the 7000 series. But to go along with that, they're giving you a bigger battery, so you can just take the new one if you want to, pop it in your old laptop. So it'll give you a 61 watt hour battery rather than the old 55 watt hour. They now do matte versions of their screens and a new hinge kit designed to kind of hold the screen more securely. So you can buy all these upgrades for your old laptops. But the big one that made us go, wow, was their new 16-inch laptop. Now,
Yes.
it's a preview. I don't think it's going to be out until the end of the year or even early next year. And there's no specs as such on it. But they were showing the new expansion options. So one of the good things about the 13 inches, rather than having dedicated ports, they have what they call modules, didn't they? So
That's right.
and you had 4 space, and you say, well, I want 2 USB-C, I want a HDMI, I want networking maybe, or I want an SD card. And they're hot swappable. They're all based on USB, so you could buy extras and just swap them as you need them. Now the new 16 inch is going to have 6 of those ports rather than 4. But this is where it starts to go a bit crazy. So they have what they call the expansion bay, I think they called it.
I think it was. Yeah, that was what they had termed it, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is what allows you to basically hot swap dedicated GPU modules. So they didn't say whether it's NVIDIA or AMD, but you'll be able to get different modules to slap it in the back and instantly get a dedicated GPU in there, or take it out and just rely on the onboard one. But you can also use this for other stuff. Use it for storage. Like I think they're going to bring out a first-party one that has dual NVMe storage in it. You could add a capture card, maybe an extra battery if you wanted to, or basically anything that can use PCI Express. So third parties will be able to make these modules and just slot them into the laptops.
It is this, people say, oh, upgradable laptops have been around for years. Well, yes and no.
Yeah.
Pretty much upgradable laptops where you could change the hard disk or the memory.
Not so
That was
much nowadays with the thinner
no,
legs because they're all soldered on, aren't they? Macs, for
yeah.
example.
But in the previous iteration of
Yeah,
laptops,
of course.
you could, that was it. But this is upgradable in the sense of desktop upgradable, as in I want a new GPU. Well, I'll just go get one then. I want, as you say, I want to change the ports on it. I don't need USB
Yep.
A anymore. I want all USB-C up the side of it. I want an Ethernet port. I want to swap that out for a display port. That kind of functionality, as you say, the whole bit of being able to upgrade your machine
Yep.
as it lifestyle. And go back to the before we get onto the 16-inch one, as you're talking about, the Ryzen one, just again, the specs of them again were phenomenal. Now they're
Yeah.
not cheap. Let's just make ourselves very, very clear here.
No, they're a
These are not
premium laptop. You're looking at, I think they start at what, £900?
900 exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think I spec'd a decent 7,001, didn't I? For I think it was 1,800 or whatever. I think when we were
Yeah.
playing around with it.
Yeah.
There was some concerns about the battery. Some people saying, oh, that to get the bigger Ryzen, you have to take their larger 61-watt battery. But there are kind of ums and ahs. People always will find queries
Yeah.
with it. But this new 16-inch one, like you say, is a beast of a machine.
The bit I love though, that GPU module, the fact that if you didn't, you could obviously plug it in and take it with you. But if you're using it on your desktop, you could actually take it out and just stick it in an external PCIe dock and
I
have it as a
know.
Thunderbolt GPU as well. I was like, crazy.
Exactly. And they're talking as well around allowing developers to build their own versions of these, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an open spec. Yep.
Open spec, and they're talking about other kinds of modules. So they've got these input
Oh yeah.
modules at 3
Yeah.
sizes, as you say, so small, medium, and large. That'll also be things like keyboards,
Yeah. This is all
RGB.
to
If
do
you,
with how you interact with the laptop, isn't it? So it's the
yeah,
top board, so your keypad, trackpad area. As you mentioned, yeah, small, medium, and large. So what was it? The large is the keyboards themselves, isn't it? And I
that's
think
right.
they're
Yeah,
going to do white backlight or RGB. So you want the gamer
yeah.
vibe, you can
There
slap
you
your
go.
RGB in. The medium ones are interesting. So basically, if you've got your keyboard in the middle, right, you could then lift it up, move it to the left, okay, then slap another module to the right, or you could put it to the left if you want to do it the other way around. But these could be number pads, jog dials, sliders, touchscreen displays, e-ink notepads, smart card readers, whatever you can imagine. I thought, yeah, that was a really cool bit for me. And then you've got the smaller modules, which flank the keyboard if you've got it in the middle, and they're usually decorative, but they could be LED matrix, they could be haptic sliders. Whatever you can imagine, if someone can build it, they can slap that in. Again, it's all an open standards, and they've released this as kind of open source. Other
Yep.
manufacturers could use the same idea, or you can build modules based on it and sell those.
To me, I mean, when I looked at this, when it talked about things like e-ink notepads, I was like, wow. I was like, that
Yep.
just those sort of things. Can you imagine a laptop that had a keyboard and then to the right of it, the ability to scribble on an e-ink? I mean, just there's so many possibilities here. It's unbelievable.
It is. And the big one from a user point of view, I love is quite often if you have a full size keyboard with numpad, the touchpad is in the middle
That's right.
rather
Yeah.
than aligned with the keyboard. So now on this one, you can just move it to the left and have it
I know
aligned with the
it's
keyboard. I
brilliant.
was like, brilliant.
But of course, as we say, this will come at a premium cost, and rightfully so, because this isn't Dell producing
No,
these. This is Framework, and they've got they're a smaller organization, quite a
they
small
are,
team still.
yeah.
Um, but if you're in the market for a custom built laptop, of your spec. Now, obviously, as we said, we don't know the specifics on the CPUs and that kind of storage. But let's be honest, given what they've done already, it's going to
It'll
be
be a
it's going to be up
13,
there.
like the 13 with Intel and AMD. You might have higher powered ones, bigger batteries, I imagine, but it'd be a similar kind of thing.
It is. And you were saying about the desktop thing, isn't it? Wasn't it? They released the 3D print specs
Yeah, they did
for
a year or so ago, didn't they, for
the desktop.
the 13-inch ones?
So if you've got one of these laptops and you've decided you wanted to upgrade to a new one, you can just take out the old motherboard and put it in this 3D printed case, and you've got yourself basically a micro PC, haven't you? That
Like a
again,
Nook, but flatter and
yeah,
longer.
yeah,
Yeah.
flatter
But
along. Like
actually,
I
if you,
said,
if you don't have a 3D printer, Cooler Master will now sell you a case.
that's right, they will, yeah. And I mean, yeah, just I worry though that obviously competing against the giants is hard, but there is definitely a market here for people who want to be able to manage and control their machines.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Um,
very interested in it. Next time I buy a brand new laptop and I've got a bit of money, I would be very, very tempted.
I think so myself. It's definitely something I will be investigating.
Just to save those pennies.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, very, very cool. And I think Framework are doing great stuff here, and long may it
Yeah.
continue.
Definitely. I mean, I did buy myself a laptop recently. I bought a second hand off eBay, but I still spent a fair whack on it. But I looked at
Yeah,
the framework, and it was just the fact that I didn't have a dedicated GPU at that point, as I wanted I wanted an NVIDIA, 3050 or something in there. So I ended up buying, a gaming laptop, but it doesn't look like gaming. It's still fairly svelte. But yeah,
it doesn't look that game. I love that statement.
okay, it does have an LED dot matrix display on the outside, but there's no RGB, so we'll let that one off. But if Framework had done a 13-inch with DGPU at that point, I would seriously consider. And I'd say a few more pennies to afford it, but it definitely would have been the way I went.
Indeed, indeed.
Mm.
So let's turn our attention
Yeah,
just for a little bit to Twitter. And you're probably thinking, here we go again. But I think this is just worth having a chat about. So a
just
couple of weeks ago,
briefly, yeah.
we talked a little bit about how Twitter was planning to make changes to the verification model. And this
Yeah.
is now going to come into action on Saturday, the 1st of April. Yes, you heard me right. Twitter are planning to do this change on April Fool's Day. So, come Saturday, then, Carl, what are we going to see happen across Twitter?
Wow. They did roll out the paid check marks, didn't they? Twitter Blue, they called it. And there was a confusion. They rolled it out and rolled it back and rolled it back out again. But what's the difference between the paid one and the actual real verified users? Well, the difference is that come April the 1st, the paid people will actually still be verified. The real verified people from before won't be verified anymore. They're going to strip them of their blue mark if you've not paid.
So, what we've gone from here then is having a verification system that states that not organizations for a second, let's talk about people. That somebody is a professional, maybe a celebrity, maybe I don't know, an expert in their field. They are journalists. They have verified themselves through various points of identification based on things I've read on Twitter. Gone to jump through many hoops to get that blue tick to so people believe and are able to trust who they are.
You were
To
actually
now
verified, you mean, with an actual ID,
exactly
not with your credit card.
to now I can just spin up Twitter on my phone here, dump $8 a month, and I
Yep,
too can get a blue tick. So
that
we've
was it.
gone from I'm verified by Real ID to actually no. What this shows now is that I've paid for Twitter.
I've got $8.
Yeah,
Well, I haven't anymore. I
basically.
gave it to Twitter, but yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I mean, it gets worse though. So that For You feed they introduced back in was it
Oh,
January?
don't. I hate it. Absolutely
Anyway,
hate it.
I don't mind because generally it's got some good recommendations sometimes, and I've gone, oh yeah, I'll follow that person. Well, those recommendations now will only be for people who've paid for Twitter. So, sorry, I should rephrase that one. The recommendations that appear in everyone's feed will only be of people who have paid for Twitter.
so, so basically, it's now pump and dump because you could be a scammer, you could be anybody,
Yeah,
and you can now find your way chasing up the recommendation
yeah.
feed because you've dumped your $8 a month.
If you don't pay, there's no way for you to attract new followers. Or not really, not in the scale that you used to be able to amass a following. You
Yeah.
need to pay to get that now.
I mean, Musk himself says that this is to combat AI bots, isn't it? And bot swarms, and that's his words, not mine.
Yeah.
In people chasing up, but actually, you know,
Actually, it's not quite like that because he's actually gone on to say that
oh yes, yeah,
bots are allowed as long
I
as they
know,
pay
I
that
know.
$8 and they don't pretend to be a human.
What do you want here? This is the
He
question
wants
you
the
have to.
money. That's what he wants. It's
Oh
easy. He
yes,
wants the money.
sorry,
He's
sorry. I
paid
haven't.
44 billion. He himself only thinks it's worth 20 billion now. He wants the money. I'm not sure it's even worth 20 billion.
Well, nor does a journalist. I saw. I can't. I apologize. I can't remember the source of this, but there was a journalist the other day who published a kind of rebuttal to that, working out that given all of the other factors and the value of the shares and all that kind of theoretical, Twitter. Oh, and that was it. And the debt that Twitter has. Yeah,
Yeah.
Twitter's worthless.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, moving on. I've had enough of Twitter for today.
I just I look. To me? I'm. It's a joke. That's to me, it's a joke because as we talked about before, I do like Twitter. I enjoy it. I have to like I said at the start of the show, that interact. Just to take a point, right? And this is my rant for the week. That whole thing I talked about at the start of the show, being able to go on Twitter and just mention about that book I read and
Yeah.
tag the author to say thank you, for writing
Yeah.
a great book, and then that person then be able to, respond to that and retweet it is great.
Yeah.
That to me is Twitter. That
Yes.
that engagement, right? Twitter for me isn't this crap. Excuse me for saying that we're seeing at the moment. With Musk basically just trying to railroad it into ground because it suits him. That's
Yeah.
that's what worried me. I just
I'm a lurker on actually pretty much all social media. I just consume it. I don't really reply back. So I might have a different take on that. But yeah, I'm not liking where Twitter's going.
No, not at all. Sorry, back to where you were.
That's all right. Okay, so well, this is an interesting turn of events. Actually, I was a bit what when I read it. So the
Yeah, I
UK
could
National
quite.
Crime Agency, the NSA, NCA,
NC.
not NSA. Sorry, that's going to be confusing. The NCA are basically on a spree of creating lots and lots of fake booter sites. So basically, a booter site is kind of a website you can go and sign up and launch distributed denial of service attacks against anyone you wanted to. So yeah, the NCA have created loads and loads of those, basically aiming to disrupt the market for DDoS attacks, making people who want to sign up confused about whether it's a legit site, a fake site or not. But it gets worse for the people that sign up, aren't they? So not only is it a fake site, the NCA are then going to take your details, and if you're based in the UK, you'll be then contacted by the National Crime Agency or your local police or warned about engaging in cybercrime. Obviously, for people that aren't in the UK, it'll be forwarded on to your local jurisdiction. Though I'm not sure anyone's actually going to put the real information in.
You say that. You say that.
Okay, sorry, there will be some people, but I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like I say, they basically have created their own honeypots here, haven't they? With
They have, yeah.
these fake DDoS tools, and we all know that on the dark web and other places, people, particularly script kiddies, are going to turn up, buy some services, not just and some other people to try and, as you say, disrupt, whatever it might be. But yes, that is a a punishable act under the Computer Misuse Act 1990. The same as if you're in the US, isn't it? What was it? The Computer and Fraud Abuse Act, which again you can be done for. But yeah, I think you're right. If you are daft enough to enter your own details because guess what, that's what you want to do, and people will do it. I mean, let's be honest, look at that guy who got done by the FBI the other week for complaining, wasn't it, that his details weren't showing up on the Have I Been Pwned website, and then asked, and then they asked him what email address did he use, and he gave his own email address, but then stated, oh no, that wasn't my address, that's just one that looks very similar in the string for, like, people are stupid.
Yeah,
people are stupid, and I would not be surprised. if people have
Yeah.
done this.
But obviously, and this is why it's just the NCA or the police will warn them, because they've actually committed an offence at that point. All they've done is log onto a site that's actually a fake one. So, but yeah, I suppose there's the intent there. So they're going to get a warning, a little slap on the
Yeah, but
wrist.
you don't need to be given your personal details, because if you don't
Yeah.
come through this via VPN or something else, you're just going to have traceable IPs.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, we'll see. I still think it's just very, very funny that they're setting this up.
I do. I think there are bigger fish to fry here than DDoS, but fair play
But
to
this
them.
doesn't seem like much effort other than
No,
slapping the websites up. Yeah, it's an easy win.
I was going to say, I bet you somebody in the NCA's gone, I've had an idea. It's like,
Well, get the janitor to build us a website. No real effort involved here.
no real effort at all. And, and it's just like, you just know somebody's gone, will it work? And I bet you they've logged back in and gone, yeah, it works.
Yeah, watching all those IPs come in, yeah, it works.
Yeah, it works. Oh, dear God. I have to say, when I saw it myself, I too was a bit like, what the hell is this? All right, then, let me fire up the tech rant rumor mill. So we've got one rumor this week for the iPhone 15. So we are getting to that time of year. WWDC was announced. We'll talk about that next week in a bit more detail. But that can mean only one thing. We are getting into Apple season, aren't we?
Rumor season.
Definitely. So what have we got there for the 15 then?
So obviously we talked about this. I had to look back for my notes way back in January about the alleged new capacitive buttons. So doing away with the physical buttons.
That's right.
On the iPhone 15, or the volume ones and the power one, and they were going to be new capacitive buttons. But we're hearing a bit more information about this, and also the replacement of the mute switch. So we're hearing that basically these new capacitive buttons are going to have a kind of 3D touch. So, for example, you could swipe to change volume, or the harder you press on the button, the quicker the volume could increase, as an example. Which is interesting. I'm still not entirely convinced by capacitive buttons. But even more of I'm not sure. The rumor is they're replacing the mute switch, the toggle you have, with an action button. So very much like you get on the Watch Ultra. And this allegedly will be user programmable.
Okay. I guess
I like the mute switch. I know where I am with the mute switch.
I do.
I look at it and I know it's muted. If I'm looking at capacitive button, I don't know if that's muted without going into the software. And I have a feeling it could be very easy to tap if you kept it as a mute button.
No. So I kind of get you here with it. Two thoughts. First off, I'm with you. I like to see the mute button is off. My phone is always, in fact, I couldn't tell you the last time I turned my phone out of mute.
So maybe that's okay then. It's just muted always. But I just like that. If I'm in a meeting, I like to be able to look at the phone and go, it's definitely muted. I'm not going to look like the idiot here.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other hand, I'm like, things have got to change. I get it, but yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you. Worse now on the idea of the other one. The other is it the action button? You said it was action button. Yeah,
the action button. Which is going to replace the mute switch.
So if on the idea of an action, on the idea of an action button for a minute, not
not a replacement, but the action button itself. Yeah,
I really like the idea. I really like the idea of this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you could map it to you've got the phone, you've got the camera, the flash, but actually having a button to press for the camera quickly.
Yeah, physical quick action camera button would be nice. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe launching another app or something like a common app or something that I want to have. With that, those sort of things I can see value in that.
Yeah, definitely.
But replacing existing buttons and creating a combination button, I don't know about that. That worries me.
Yeah, it's that mute button's been there for 14 iterations. Well, 13 actually, because there wasn't 9, was there? But yeah, all the phones, all the iPhones.
Yeah, it just seems a bit. I get Apple. They want to innovate, and also this. I think this can go some way towards completely waterproofing the phone as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Because they've got an IP60. Is it IP68 or 67 rating with the new?
7, I thought it was.
Yeah,
68. I don't know.
you've got a high, got a high waterproofing slash, dust with these phones anyway. And obviously at the moment we've only got one port on the bottom, which is the USB C slash lightning port.
Lightning, yeah.
Cough cough. um it's going to get that way, isn't it, really? But I think to get rid of existing buttons and expect users to learn how to do it. Now, I can't actually know. I'm going to contradict myself there. We had this whole thing with Face ID. Do you remember when they got rid of Touch ID, introduced Face ID, and we all said the same thing? Well, how the hell is this going to work? But you know what? People do adjust to these things. So in one respect,
Do
it may, it may
but
work.
Touch ID is still easier.
Well, yeah,
Especially in COVID, it was with a mask on.
Well, till they released the updates, yeah, definitely. But
But yeah, I mean, yeah, a Touch ID is easier, definitely. But hey ho. The other thing that bugged me was like capacitive buttons require power.
yes.
How does that work if your phone's turned off?
Well,
How do you turn it back on without power?
I think the reason they said that would be, I think the argument wasn't it that the same way, the same way that Apple Pay works, and
It is, yeah.
Was
The
it the
rumor
Ultra?
is there'll be a new microprocessor that's
Yeah.
gonna a super ultra low powered chip that's
Yeah.
dedicated to handling the capacitive buttons. But it will also now take over duty for the Find My, which obviously works when your phone's turned off-ish. It'll do the Bluetooth ultra wideband and the Apple Pay Express Transit. That's the one, isn't it? Which is
Yeah.
the Oyster card kind of thingy.
Wasn't what was it, the U1 chip, wasn't it, where they released, wasn't it? That was the first time around. Was it U1?
The U1 is the bit that handles the ultra wideband, isn't it, for Find
Yeah,
My?
that was it. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm guessing it's going to be some kind of
Slightly pimped up version of it.
yeah, basically, yeah. Basically.
Pimp by U1.
Pimp by U1, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely that. But I mean, look, we know this is gonna happen, isn't it? It's gonna be
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see where this goes. But yeah, on the other hand, I'm also a bit confused of like, what are they trying to replace?
I mean, the other rumor I see that kind of goes in conjunction with it is that they're going to remove all SIM cards worldwide, or SIM trays.
Well, that was the rumor first time around when they introduced eSIM, wasn't it?
Only in the US at the moment, isn't it? There's no SIM trays.
Yeah. Which,
yeah,
I wouldn't have an issue with that personally.
As long as your network supports eSIM, then I wouldn't have an issue with it.
No, not at all.
If they were to just go announce it for the 15, it's worldwide. There'll be a fair few carriers that aren't ready for this.
Yeah, but again, sometimes things have got to change, haven't they?
I have until you got no signal. I don't want to be that one with no signal when I'm out and about.
That's what SOS mode's for.
Real-time satellite comms, yeah?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Right. Well, on that point, that's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. We'll be back next week for episode 129, where we've already got a few stories. One of these we're going to be talking about E3 next week, and well, E3 not, I should say, and also Amazon's Sidewalk network, which is quite eye-opening when we'll get into that in a bit more detail. But of course, you can find us still on Twitter. We'll still be there because we've got no blue tick. We'll still be there on Twitter. At Weekly Tech Rant. I couldn't think of what we were. And of course, all our show notes at techrant.online. And of course, wherever you get your podcast from to recommend to your friends or tell them where we are, that'd be greatly appreciated. And of course, if you've got any thoughts, comments, do let us know. With that, I've been Jay.
I've been Carl. Have a good evening, all.